State lawmakers are trying to figure out how to pay for roads, and that could mean you'll be spending more money on your commute.
And we are in the winter storm warning that includes rain, ice, and snow. Christina Laurie has live updates on what will definitely be a messy drive to work.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning and welcome to News 3 Now this morning. It is 6 o'clock now on this Thursday, February 7th. The top news of the day, this winter storm warning. We have almost 100 school districts closed already, and that includes most of the ones here in Dane County.
Yep. So far, my kid's still going to school, though.
Yeah, Madison's
kids
not in
still
there.
going.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, though. We are talking some pretty serious weather conditions today. I'm talking freezing rain for several hours here in Madison. Let's take a look. The winter weather bulletins have been changed a little bit overnight, so if you're just waking up, Madison and Dane County and much of south central Wisconsin are now under a winter storm warning. The reason for the upgrade is because we're expecting several hours of freezing rain, which will lead to more than 1/4 of an inch of ice accumulation. Pretty hard to pinpoint exactly where that's going to occur, but right now the current thinking is in the line from about Darlington to Madison over to Fond du Lac with those highest ice accumulations. Here's a look at the radar map this morning. We've had some light snow here in Madison. With warmer temperatures, though, that transitions to sleet and freezing rain and eventually rain in southeastern Wisconsin. This is just an initial surge of moisture into the area, more lining back up to the south and west. So I do expect several hours of precipitation right into the afternoon today. Temperatures will be critical. A change of a degree or two will really impact what type of precipitation you see. In Janesville, it's 32, drops to 24 here in Madison, 28 in Platteville, and 22 in the Dells. Now, northwest of Madison and Dane County, mostly snow is expected today, so you'll see some higher snow totals there. For the rest of the area, a mix with ice accumulations. It'll eventually change to all snow and come to an end as colder air works its way into the area later today. Your first alert traffic this morning, not so bad right now, but keep in mind there is a little bit of fresh snow on some of the roads overnight. We had some light snow here in Madison, so that may be on top of ice. It is a little slow going, looking like 14 heading into Madison is already slow, so be careful there. Getting around is going to be difficult as we go through the morning right into the afternoon, so plan accordingly.
Yeah, we're taking a look at 511 Wisconsin right now. The state says most major highways in our area are described as slippery stretches. 151 in Sun Prairie, ice covered already, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, with that freezing rain coming in, we're not expecting very good conditions. You can see the cameras are iced over there.
Yeah.
Wow, you're not going to be able to see through that. Give it a couple hours.
No, I know.
All right, thank you, Hattie.
You're welcome.
As you just heard Hattie mention, ice will be a problem today, no doubt. It could even cause power outages throughout the day.
We could see 1/4 inch of ice coating the roads by the end of the morning as well. Christina Laurie is live on Verona Road on Madison's west side with an update. Christina, how's it looking out there?
Good morning, Leah and Danica. Well, we've gotten used to driving on slick snow-covered roads over the past week or so, but this morning's conditions are different, even more dangerous. We pulled off to show you what we're talking about. When you head to work this morning, you'll see shinier than usual roads. That is ice. The U.S. DOT warns that out of all of the winter weather driving conditions, ice not only causes the most accidents, but the most accidental road deaths, too. During the last decade, 4 times the number of people have died during a crash caused by ice than snow, sleet, or rain combined. We just talked to Dane County Dispatch, and they tell News 3 Now they've had crews out all night, overnight, clearing and treating the roads with salt. The good news here is that the temperatures are warm enough for that salt to work, but crews worry they won't be able to keep up with the pace that this ice accumulates, as Hattie talked about, expecting about 1/4 of an inch here. So if you have to head out this morning, please drive carefully, take it slow. We already saw several cars sliding around corners.
All right, something we're going to keep an eye on. Christina Laurie, drive safe out there.
So despite all of the weather-related closures today and over the last month, the State Department of Public Instruction will not be reducing classroom hours. Sorry, kids. Most students do have to put in more than 1,000 hours for the school year to count. Districts can build in some hours in case there are unexpected closures, like today. For instance, the Middleton Cross Plains School District built in 40 additional hours this year, so administrators will still have about 10 hours to work with. But in districts like Verona, high schoolers already need to make up 18 hours, and they're off again today. Madison schools are having students come in tomorrow and which was originally a staff-only day.
At the state capitol, Republican lawmakers are bringing back old talks for transportation funding, but this time with a new twist. Speaker Voss and Senate Majority Leader Fitzgerald says they're considering tolls for state highways to make up for deficits in state transportation funding. Members of the community are responding, say there are pros and cons to the idea. One con is that it might drive people to move closer to Madison to avoid those tolls. But if tolling would turn the 2-lane highway into a 4-lane, it could mean an economic boost for places near Madison, like Monroe, which is located just off State Highway 69.
If you are talking to somebody who wants to relocate or start a new strategy for an industry, one of the things that they want is direct access to a 4-lane highway.
A representative with Senator Fitzgerald's office stressed that much more research has to go into this idea before a solid plan could be formed. Fitzgerald says he won't move forward without support from the governor either.
We are waiting to see if state Democrats will draft legislation on abortion this session after President Trump urged Congress to ban late-term abortions nationwide. Assembly Speaker Robin Voss says any bills on the issue would not move forward with the GOP majority in the state capitol. Instead, he wants to put resources toward families looking to adopt. The governor's office says if Republicans want to improve outcomes for mothers and babies, they should support life-saving health programs.
The 23-day shutdown at Columbia County Correctional Institute up in Portage is now over. According to a Department of Corrections spokesperson, normally scheduled visitation will resume tomorrow, and other activities and programming will start back up over the next couple of days. Families with loved ones inside say the facility has been locked down for a couple days at most in the past. It's still unclear why the building was on lockdown for so long this time.
The man accused of kidnapping Jamie Kloss and killing her parents will face a jury. 21-year-old Jake Patterson will be back in court next month for his arraignment. He will stand trial after waiving his right to a preliminary hearing yesterday. He gave only brief answers to the judge during his 5-minute appearance in court. Both his family and Jamie's family were at that hearing. Patterson has yet to enter a plea, but investigators say he did confess during questioning. A conviction would likely mean he'd spend the rest of his life in prison.
The Milwaukee Police Department is mourning the loss of its 3rd officer in just the past 8 months. 35-year-old Matthew Rittner was killed yesterday while serving a search warrant for a hostage situation. It happened on Milwaukee's south side around 9 yesterday morning. The suspect, by the way, is in custody. Officers held a procession for Rittner yesterday as his body traveled from the hospital to the medical examiner's office. This comes just 6 months after another Milwaukee officer was fatally shot on duty and another died in a rollover crash.
We're asking the city and everyone around the country, everybody who's seeing this is a lot to bear for an agency. 3 deaths in such a short period of time. And so we're asking for prayer and support from all of our city residents.
Officer Rittner was a 17-year veteran with the department. He also served 3 tours in the Middle East with the Marines. He leaves behind a wife and a young child.
The Beaver Dam community will soon have a new kayak launch in the memory of a 24-year-old woman killed in an apartment fire back in April. The State Journal reports Common Council there accepted a $25,000 donation from Jade Wilson's grandfather. You're seeing here there. When News 3 Now talked to her friends last year, they described her as a loving, warm-hearted person. She also loved to kayak. Her grandfather's donation will go to the city's Parks Department to build a launch site where the Oneida Street dead ends into Beaver Dam Lake. That's just a couple blocks south of Lakeview Park.
A good way to honor that young woman.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
A Middleton family is sharing a piece of their family with others waiting for a heart transplant. After a tragic accident, one man's journey dealing with heart disease is offering some peace of mind for others in the hospital.
We'll have more on that. Plus, Hattie says we are just getting into the worst of this morning's weather. The interstate north of Portage is snow covered. Highway 151 Sun Prairie and north already iced over. Your Alert Day forecast is next on News 3 Now this morning.
Good morning from the Hattie-O patio. It's an alert day. We have some mist and drizzle occurring right now in Madison with temperatures below freezing. You can hear all the branches clinking behind me. They're all frozen over right now, and more freezing rain is on the way. 2 days are alert days for us, today and tomorrow. Today, due to the icy mixture of precipitation, slippery roads are going to be all but a guarantee as we go through the morning here across southern Wisconsin. Then we turn our attention to bitter cold conditions on Friday. Let's get you updated on what's happening on the radar map right now. The National Weather Service in Sullivan, that's in between Madison and Milwaukee, is reporting freezing rain right now. A solid glaze of ice is occurring at their office. We have more of a mist and drizzle situation as you get back here towards Madison. This is just the initial surge of moisture, though there is more to the south and west. We'll talk about that in just a second. Because of the chances are increasing that we'll see some pretty heavy ice accumulations across parts of the area. Some counties have been upgraded to a winter storm warning, and those counties are in pink for south central Wisconsin. That goes until 6 p.m. this evening. Now, here's a look at forecast ice accumulation. Through the morning towards the lunch hour, we're looking at almost 1/4 of an inch here in Madison, and that freezing rain threat continues into the early afternoon hours. So anywhere from 1/4 to maybe 1/3 of an inch of ice is possible in some locations. We're also talking about some snow with this particular system, and areas north and west of the Dells especially, where it's cold enough for all snow, you're going to see some pretty big snow accumulations. Not much for most of our area. Most of the region will see less than a couple of inches. But to the north and west, those amounts do increase rather quickly. So again, here's a wider view of the radar map. You can see one round of precipitation moving through southern Wisconsin early this morning, but some heavier, steadier precipitation quickly approaching from the south and west. Getting some freezing rain reports out of southeastern Iowa right now, so it's just a matter of time before it moves into southern Wisconsin. Between 7 and 8, that should hit Madison. Our temperatures are all over the map, even through the upper Midwest. 35 in Chicago, 34 in Milwaukee right now, 20 in Minneapolis. It drops to 4 degrees below zero in Fargo. So here in southern Wisconsin, we're right on that line. Janesville has dropped 2 degrees now to 30, still at 24 here in Madison and 28 in Platteville, 22 in the Dells. A look at your future track forecast model if you want to plan things out. And again, by 7:30, it has that mixed precipitation moving in for most of the area. Keep in mind, well to the north and west, it's mainly going to be snow. But the freezing rain continues in Dane County through the lunch hour and eventually changes to some snow later on this afternoon as colder air begins to work in behind this system. Tonight, we turn our attention to cold temps and strong northwesterly winds, starting out below zero tomorrow morning. So here's a look at your 7-day forecast. That's a lot to take in this morning. We really have all types of precipitation right here in southern Wisconsin. For that reason, it's an alert day. Temperatures will top right around the freezing point. Significantly colder tomorrow, a high of 7, but wind chills remaining in the teens below zero through the day. And then the weather pattern stays active. A chance for some light snow accumulations on Sunday, maybe some heavier snow accumulations possible as we head into Tuesday of next week. Roads are going to be tricky today. Let's get an update on your News 3 Now First Alert traffic with Jason Stone. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. Drive vigilant out there this morning. Roads are slick. Drivers are safely taking the exit ramps and no incidents to report on the Beltline so far. Getting there, a different story. Highway 151 is still covered with ice, while other routes to Madison have stretches of ice. Highway 14 seeing some delays of 10 minutes heading north. For those heading downtown, expect some delays on East Wash near the Capitol Square. With your First Alert traffic, I'm Jason Stone.
Thank you very much, Jason, and thank you, Hattie. New this morning, if you are tired of telemarketers or scammers making your phone ring off the hook, the state's top consumer experts say you are far from alone. Telemarketing is the #1 complaint of 2018. It had a 17% increase in the number of complaints about unwanted calls compared to the year before. The second most common complaint for Wisconsin consumers, medical services. Most often, those are about billing disputes or unauthorized charges. Today on News 3 Now, live at 4, Mark and Susan are going to sit down with DATCAP to talk about the top complaints and how to resolve them.
Smoking tobacco is the leading cause of preventable deaths in the U.S., and a new report from the American Lung Association gives Wisconsin failing grades for tobacco prevention. That organization is calling for more program funding and for lawmakers to adopt legislation to place all tobacco products behind the counter or in a locked cabinet. That bill passed the Senate last session but didn't advance in the Assembly. Wisconsin was also given a failing grade for its minimum age to buy tobacco products. According to a National Academy of Medicine report, increasing the minimum to 21 years old would prevent more than 200,000 deaths, including more than 50,000 from lung cancer.
A Middleton man's drawings depicting his journey with heart disease are now passing along life lessons to others in UW Hospital's transplant clinic. In July of 2017, Scott Kirkpatrick suffered a massive heart attack while he was driving. He crashed his car into a tree going 80 miles an hour, breaking 24 bones in the process. He needed machines to keep him alive. That was just the beginning, too, of his journey.
He went through this horrific accident and heart attack, and he made it through, but his health is declining and he's getting weaker, and his heart literally is dying. And it's kind of like running a marathon and then finding out, oh, you're not done, you got to run another one, because now you have to wait for a heart transplant.
Even though Scott's story didn't end the way his family had hoped, his legacy lives on through those drawings. Those express what he went through, good and bad, while he waited for a new heart. And tonight at 10, Amanda Quintana is going to share more from Scott's wife, Carrie, and how she hopes his art can offer other patients, families, and doctors some insight, some hope, and some positivity.
It's going to be a pretty inspiring story for anybody going through a hard time right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, 6:18 your time now. Just as the UW system starts increasing tuition prices for graduate programs, UW is starting up some new research to make college cheaper for your student.
Yes, plows are salting out there, but it will still be really slick, so be careful. We have more than 100 school districts opting to either open late or close for the day because buses could have a tough time with this ice. We'll take another look at the forecast when News 3 Now This Morning returns.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Hattie McClain. This is a shot from the Edgewater Skycam. You can't see the Capitol much. We have a real thick drizzle occurring right now in Madison, and it's freezing drizzle because temperatures are below freezing. The trees are all iced over in the patio. You can hear them clinking in the wind. Winter storm warnings are in effect for Dane County and the rest of the counties shaded in pink. That's an upgrade overnight. Until 6 o'clock, winter weather advisories for the counties shaded in purple. Now we're looking at some freezing rain that will eventually move into southern Wisconsin. This bit of precipitation, just the initial surge. More is lining up to the south and west. We'll expect freezing rain for several hours across parts of southern Wisconsin. Temperatures will be critical today. The southeastern corner of the state quite mild. Kenosha's at 39 degrees right now. It's 34 in Milwaukee, 30 in Janesville. There is freezing rain occurring in Sullivan. That's in between Milwaukee and Madison at the National Weather Service office, with a glaze of ice just occurring recently there. So look for conditions to deteriorate through the morning hours. We're looking at freezing rain through most of the day for Madison and the surrounding areas. It will eventually change to snow later on this afternoon. Stay safe today.
Thanks so much, Hattie. We will try. 6:23 your time now. If you have a student at UW-Madison, they might have a new health major to choose from soon. The UW Regents will start their two-day meeting later today in downtown Madison. And on the agenda is adding a health promotion and equity Bachelor of Science to the list of majors for undergrads. It's in response to more demand for health-related education from employers like health insurance companies, mental health centers, and nonprofits. Regents are also talking about upping tuition for graduate degrees at a handful of UW system schools. That meeting starts this morning at 9. Speaking of higher education, there is a lab here in Madison trying to figure out how to make it more affordable from a scientific standpoint. UW is launching the Student Success Through Applied Research Lab, one of the first of its kind in the country, to use data and research to figure out how to get more people into college and grad school. The lab is holding a grand opening tomorrow inside the Office of Student Financial Aid. That starts at 2 p.m.
UW-Whitewater is one step closer to having a new chancellor this morning. The Janesville Gazette reports there are now just 2 finalists up for the position to replace former Chancellor Beverly Copper. Susan Friesen has been the assistant vice chancellor for the University of Texas system since 2016, and Steve Chmielewski is the community economic development educator of the UW Extension in Waukesha County. He's been at that position for about 3 years now. 2 public forums are going to be planned ahead of a final decision. 6:25 right now, a new hotel, upgraded exhibition hall, and bike path improvements over at the Alliant Energy Center. It's all getting closer to becoming a reality.
And we are learning more about the candidates running for Madison mayor ahead of this month's primary. We'll hear from a handful of them. That's next on News 3 Now this morning. Dane County is looking for leaders to help carry out $90 million in improvements to the Alliant Energy Center.
And bracing for ice, the roads are messy this morning and they're expected to get even messier. We're out monitoring road conditions ahead of your morning drive.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now This Morning.
Good morning and welcome to the final half hour of News 3 Now This Morning on this Thursday, February 7th. The story of the day, it's going to be the road conditions as we watch for more ice headed our way. Going to get to the worst of it in the next couple of hours.
Yeah, and then it will last about 4 hours after that. This kind of freezing drizzle out there. Hattie has the details out on her patio this morning. As you were saying, you can see that freezing drizzle coming down. It's only going to get worse, right?
Yeah, there's a heavy drizzle right now in Madison, and when you look into any of the street lights or parking lot lights, it's just coming down sideways right now with a little bit of a wind. All the trees are iced over. All the cars are little ice cubes this morning with a fresh coating of ice on everything, and it's only going to get worse over the next several hours. The National Weather Service has upgraded parts of the area to a winter storm warning due to the potential for some pretty heavy ice accumulations. We're talking over 1/4 of an inch. And when you start talking ice like that, that could cause problems breaking branches, having those fall into power lines and then cause some power outages. So we'll be watching things carefully as they develop today. One little bit of mixed precipitation moving through mainly southeastern Wisconsin right now. Again, just some drizzle here in Madison, but there is more precipitation, more widespread precipitation off to our south and west. Been getting some freezing rain reports out of southeastern Iowa, and that's all moving in this direction this morning. So after 7 o'clock, look for that freezing rain to move into the Madison area. Obviously, if you are south and west of Madison, it will occur just a little bit earlier than that. Our temperatures through the day today will climb only a couple of degrees into the low 30s, but then drop back this afternoon as strong northwesterly winds kick in. So again, we're talking ice accumulation and some snow for our northwestern viewing area through the day today. First alert traffic maps early this morning. No accidents to report, but keep in mind that any untreated surfaces are going to be slippery this morning. The patio's covered in ice with just a little bit of fresh snow on top of it, so it's very slippery. Slow going as you head into Madison from some of the surrounding communities right now. Speeds are already a little bit slower than they normally would be. But again, look for conditions to deteriorate through the morning right into the afternoon.
Yeah, Hads, you were saying earlier, you can already hear the trees clinking together with all the ice already out there, right?
Oh yeah, right now the wind is blowing in the patio and there's just sort of an eerie sound to the branches as they bump into each other. So everything is iced over.
All right, come back inside. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Addie.
So due to this ice, almost 130 school districts have decided it is too risky to get kids to and from school with the storm that's expected through the morning.
Christina Laurie has been watching what that means for your drive all morning. She's live along Verona Road right now with the latest. Christina, how's it looking out there?
Leah and Danica, these aren't the slick, snow-covered roads we've gotten used to driving on over the past week or so. We pulled off to show you exactly what we're talking about this morning. As you can see, the roads are looking shiny this morning. That is ice. The U.S. DOT warns that out of all the winter weather driving conditions, ice not only causes the most accidents, but the most accident deaths, too. During the last decade, 4 times the number of people have died during a crash caused by ice than snow, sleet, or rain combined. We talked with Dane County Dispatch, and they tell News 3 Now they've had crews out all night, overnight, clearing and treating the roads with salt. But in extreme conditions, that won't help much. Some tips for drivers in these icy conditions. If you absolutely have to be out, the National Weather Service recommends accelerating, decelerating slowly, increasing following distance, and never trying to stop when you're going up a hill because you might slide back down, crash into other cars. If you do get involved in an accident, they say that you want to remain in your car because chain reaction crashes are much more likely in these conditions. So if you have to drive this morning, please be careful. Take it slow. Back to you, ladies.
State Patrol must be watching, Christina, because they have now listed officially where you are as ice covered and the rest of Verona Road heading south toward Dodgeville. So super dangerous. All right, Christina Laurie reporting live for us this morning. A lot of noise going on there. Thank you, Christina.
6:33 your time now. Dane County supervisors are talking about asking state leaders to close the so-called dark store tax loophole. Big box retailers can take advantage of that loophole, so their property is assessed like it's an empty building and not an occupied storefront, which means less tax revenue for that county. Governor Tony Evers has already committed to ending that practice across the state.
Now that preliminary planning is over with, Dane County supervisors are going to look at creating a committee tasked with executing the master plan for the Alliant Energy Center. Initial estimates show the county's $90 million initial investment in that campus will generate more than $200 million in private investment there. Now, this year's budget does include funding for design work on a bigger exhibition hall, as well as analysis for stormwater systems on the property. The new committee would include representatives from Dane County, the City of Madison, the Chamber of Commerce, the Visitors Bureau, and transportation departments.
We are learning more this week about what Madison's candidates stand for mayor about 2 weeks out from the primary election. Last night, 5 candidates spent their evening answering questions from Northside residents. Paul Soglin, Satya Rhodes-Conway, Maurice Cheeks, Raj Shukla, and Toriana Petaway were all there. If you weren't able to catch last night's event, here's a quick look at what they had to say.
I have spent the last 13 years working as the managing director of the Mayor's Innovation Project, which is a national learning network for mayors.
The most important thing that a mayor has to do is take on the serious challenges that confront the community and to look out into the future as to what's possible and make it happen.
I'm running for mayor to work to address this persistent reputation that we've developed as a tale of two cities. In order to make this an inclusive, innovative, safe city for everyone.
What I would say to you is that what distinguishes me is that I have a record of working as a civic leader and as a professional of bringing people together across industry and activist communities.
Currently, I work with all 26 departments in leadership. I consult and I give guidance on human resource management. I give guidance on urban and region planning. I work with the alders and the councilmen.
The primary election is scheduled for February 19th. The general election is on April 2nd.
The chance of you or your family being involved in an active shooter situation are actually less than getting struck by lightning. But like we saw last summer in Middleton, it really can happen here and to anyone. That's why the Madison Police Department wants people to be prepared. They are hosting the first of 4 civilian response to active shooter events training tonight at the MPD Training Center on the East Side. Now that includes tools to increase your chances of survival and a Q&A session with experts. It runs from 6 until 8 tonight. The School District of Evansville will not be adding a school resource officer this next school year. The police chief there was hoping voters would pass a referendum back in November to create the position, but that didn't happen. According to a recent community survey, one of the biggest priorities for Evansville residents is school safety. But the superintendent says it's a matter of balancing those priorities and that the district is improving security in other ways. He is hopeful, though, they can add a school resource officer sometime down the road. 6:36 right now. A handful of political leaders on the East Coast will all be facing pressure to resign this morning after alleged racism and claims of sexual assault. That's ahead in the morning sprint.
And a new study shows climate change is going to drastically change the look of our planet by the end of the century. That story's still coming up when News 3 Now this morning continues.
All right, Brenda sent this over on Facebook. Buck is our News 3 morning. It is pretty cool shot. I mean, he's staring right at her, saying cheese.
Danica, I am not over the buck I missed last November.
I know you're not.
Why are you showing me this, Brenda? My
Sorry.
goodness. Gorgeous shot, though. Thanks for sharing. What does your morning look like? Take a picture, post it on our Facebook page or on Twitter, and use the hashtag MyNews3Morning. Danica and I will share our favorites right here on the program.
A new MIT study says climate change could cause the Earth to lose its distinct blue color in 80 years. Researchers say there will be a noticeable difference in the color of half of our oceans due to changes in the makeup of phytoplankton. The study found some regions that are greener now, like the poles, may turn a deeper hue as warmer temperatures create more diverse types of the tiny sea creature. Warmer temperatures could mean the blue regions like the subtropics will turn shades darker, meaning there's less life in those waters.
And new data confirms 2018 was one of the hottest years on record. Now, meteorologists predict the next 5 are going to be even hotter. Last year, the average global temperature was right around 58.42 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 1.42 degrees warmer than the 20th century average. 2018 ranks as the 4th hottest year since record keeping started back in 1880. 9 of those 10 hottest years on record all have happened since 2005.
You could have fooled us with this hot weather news because it is feeling like the gloomiest kind of winter out there right now. Hattie's warning us about ice completely coating roads and sidewalks this morning. It's already, I should say, coating the cameras out there. 511 Wisconsin already has pretty much all of the major highways around here slippery or ice covered. Hattie will update us on the radar for this winter storm next.
But first, if you have a little kiddo turning 3 soon, please let us know so we can show their picture on TV. Thanks for watching News 3 Now this morning.
Welcome back. In sports this morning, Wisconsin men's basketball is riding a 6-game win streak after getting some sweet revenge against Minnesota last night. The Badgers won 56-51 after falling to the Gophers at home last month. Up next is Michigan. The Wolverines are first in the Big Ten, but lost to Iowa and, oh yeah, I think it was Wisconsin in the last month. Tip is 11 a.m. on Saturday. All right, the Bucks are hoping they are as lucky this season as their 1 millionth fan at the Fiserv Forum, because holy smokes, is she getting a lot of goodies.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
Listen to this. The team threw a big party for Samantha Holshoe and gave her a prize package that includes 2 tickets to the first playoff game, concert tickets to Mumford & Sons and Carrie Underwood. Okay, I'm jealous now. WWE live tickets, a case of Miller Coors, tequila, Jack Daniels, Palermo's Pizza for a year. We're not done. A few gift cards, not to mention plenty of swag. Meanwhile, the Bucks enjoyed their night as well, beating the Washington Wizards 148-129. The team had 50 points in the first quarter alone. Giannis Antetokounmpo, how'd I do there, Danica?
You did very well.
Put up 43. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, we wish we could get to 43 today, because that would be amazing with this rain falling. It wouldn't turn to ice heads.
That's true. We wouldn't have to deal with the freezing rain. But again, that's what we're talking about today. And it all is determined by the temperature profile of the atmosphere. And this is where we sit today. Warm air above a very shallow layer of cold air. The surface is below freezing, but above that it's warm. So as precipitation falls, it melts into the form of rain and then freezes on contact when it hits colder surfaces. And again, that's what's happening across southern Wisconsin this morning. The National Weather Service has issued a winter storm warning for south central Wisconsin. Again, this does include Madison and Dane County. It goes until 6 o'clock this afternoon. We're looking at anywhere from 1/4 to maybe up to 3/10 of an inch of ice. It will change over to some snow later on and late today. Here's a look at your forecast ice accumulation through the day today. Again, there will be a fairly narrow band of some pretty heavy ice accumulations from Darlington through Madison up towards Fond du Lac, and then Sheboygan and Manitowoc of about 1/4 of an inch or more. Snow accumulations, well, they're going to be a little higher to the north and west. Not much here in Madison, but those numbers do increase rather quickly as you head north and west, where temperatures are cold enough through all layers of the atmosphere for you to receive snow. Here's a look at what's happening on the radar map this morning. We have a steady drizzle. It's a freezing drizzle in Madison. Some freezing rain has been reported at the National Weather Service in Sullivan this morning. But there is more precipitation, and it is quickly approaching from the south and west. You see that band of heavier precipitation that will push through southern Wisconsin as we go through the morning hours. So several hours of freezing rain possible here in Madison and the surrounding areas. This is what it looks like in Platteville this morning. We've had some mixed precipitation overnight, but then a lull in the precipitation. Right now, relatively quiet in Platteville, 28 degrees, though below freezing, 24 here in Madison. Janesville has dropped to 30 as well. So all spots in our viewing area are below freezing right now. Winds from the northeast this morning will shift to the northwest, and they'll be increasing later on today into tonight. By the time we get to tomorrow morning, we're looking at wind speeds in the 20 to 25 mile an hour range with temperatures below 0. Here's a look at your future track forecast model. Starting at 7:30 this morning, you can see pretty widespread freezing rain occurring for most of the area. And that freezing rain line really stays nearly stationary through the morning. So by 10 o'clock, even into the lunch hour, still the potential for freezing rain here in Madison. Eventually it gets cold enough that we'll see some snow start to mix in and change over here across southern Wisconsin. And then the focus again, of course, turns towards colder conditions for the overnight hours. We're starting out below 0 tomorrow morning. Here's a look at your extended forecast. We have temperatures that will top only at 7 tomorrow. Issued an alert day in the forecast for tomorrow because wind chills will stay well below 0 through the day. And then our chances for snow return Sunday and even Tuesday of next week.
No.
Here's someone that's going to be safe inside today. Love the name, Bam Bam.
Pretty formal Bam Bam for a day
Spring
inside.
green.
Nobody's going to see him.
Dressed up, nowhere to go.
Ready for
It's
prom.
fine.
Thank you, Addie.
You're welcome.
The morning sprint's coming up next right here on News 3 this morning. Stay with us. 6:52, time for the morning sprint. This morning, we have more than 500 people around the Lake Geneva and Delavan areas without power this morning. Icy roads are going to be a problem. More than 100 school districts, almost 130, are closed for the day.
Christina Laurie is live with the latest on those road conditions for us this morning. But let's start with Hattie on just how much ice we might see today. Hads?
Yeah, again, our forecast for today calls for some icy mixed precipitation to move in. We're already starting to see that just to the south and west of the Mississippi River Valley. It will continue to spread into southern Wisconsin as we go through the morning hours, probably reaching Madison between 7 and 8 o'clock this morning. Winter storm warnings are in effect for the areas that could receive the highest ice accumulation. We're talking ice accumulations in excess of 1/4 of an inch from Madison up towards Fond du Lac and Sheboygan. So be aware that's a pretty heavy ice accumulation. Snow accumulations to the north and west as well. Not a whole lot for south central Wisconsin, but to the north and west, several inches will be possible today.
If you have to drive to work this morning, you'll see shinier than usual roads. That is ice. The U.S. DOT warns that out of all the winter weather driving conditions, ice not only causes the most accidents, but the most deaths. During the last decade, 4 times the number of people have died during a crash caused by ice than snow, sleet, and rain combined. Dane County crews have been treating the roads with salt overnight, but in extreme conditions, that won't work. Some safety tips for drivers: accelerate and decelerate slowly, increase your following distance, and if you do get in an accident, stay in your car and wait for help to arrive.
We would love to see better quality roads. I think everybody would like that.
At the state capitol, Republican lawmakers are suggesting a way to do just that by putting tolls on state highways. Community members say that might lead to more people moving closer to Madison to avoid those tolls, but a perk could be the economic boost to neighboring cities like Monroe if a 2-lane highway expands to 4. Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald says much more research needs to be done first. He also says he wouldn't move forward on the toll plan without support from the governor.
We are adding another makeup day for students across southern Wisconsin, but the state has no plans to reduce classroom hours. The required number of those districts like Middleton Cross Plains built in additional hours to prepare for these unexpected closures. But in districts like Verona, high schoolers already needed to make up 18 hours before today's closure. Madison's now scheduled to have students in tomorrow, which was originally a staff-only day. That district has not canceled class for today's ice.
21-year-old Jake Patterson will stand trial for the kidnapping of Jamie Kloss and the murder of her parents, and we're about to hear from his father. Patterson waived his right to a preliminary hearing yesterday. He has yet to enter a plea, but investigators did say he confessed during questioning. A conviction would likely mean he'd spend the rest of his life in prison. CBS This Morning is going to share an interview with Patterson's father. That's coming up just after 7 this morning.
We're asking the city and everyone around the country, everybody who's seeing this, for prayer and support.
The Milwaukee Police Department is mourning the loss of its 3rd officer in just the past 8 months. 35-year-old Matthew Rittner was killed yesterday while serving a search warrant for a hostage situation. The suspect is in custody this morning. Officer Rittner was a 17-year veteran with the department. He also served 3 tours in the Middle East with the Marines. He leaves behind a wife and a young child.
The Beaver Dam community will soon have a new kayak launch in honor of a 24-year-old woman killed in an apartment fire back in April. The State Journal reports the Common Council accepted a $25,000 donation from Jade Wilson's grandfather. That money will go to the city's Parks Department to build a launch site at Beaver Dam Lake.
In Rock County, the company that staffs the courthouse's security guards wants them now to be armed. The Janesville Gazette reports adding guns would cost the county an additional $13,000. The armed guard proposal was tabled at by a committee this week, that is, after a discussion about safety concerns.
The president is tweeting this morning about scandals facing 3 Democratic politicians in Virginia, saying Republicans will take back the governor's office in 2020. The Commonwealth's Attorney General, Mark Herring, is now admitting he used brown makeup for a college party back in 1980. Governor Ralph Northam remains under pressure to resign over a racist photo in his grad school yearbook, and Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax is denying a sexual assault allegation stemming from an encounter 15 years ago.
It is almost 6:57 on this slick Thursday morning. Let's turn it over to Jason Stone with one more look at your First Alert traffic. Hi, Jason.
Hello. No incidents to report on the Beltline so far. Only minor delays for those heading westbound from the interstate through Monona Drive. There's moderate delays on John Nolan at North Shore Drive. And remember to drive attentive this morning. Roads are becoming more slippery. With your First Alert traffic, I'm Jason Stone.
Be safe today, Jason. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had some freezing drizzle here in the Madison area, so be aware of that. Everything is likely under a coating of ice this morning. Here's a look at some of those drive times. You're gonna need to plan extra time to get to your destination. The view from the zoo, pretty gray this morning. That precipitation is just getting ready to move into far southwestern Wisconsin as we speak, and it will continue towards the Madison area between 7 and 8 o'clock. We have freezing rain through the morning, eventually changing over to some light snow this afternoon.
We're going to keep an eye on your forecast and your traffic. Stay tuned to channel3000.com for the latest.